Monchi's podcast.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
anyway, I really appreciate that you come onto the podcast and that you
Great to be
found
here.
some time to do this. Yeah, so how was your day? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's Friday. I've got that Friday feeling. Sun is shining, birds are singing. So I like the way that on a Friday the traffic starts kind of building up a little bit, and you sort of feel the excitement. Yeah. So we're now in Berlin, as of quite recently, and you really feel that the energy building up, like into the weekend. So it's I don't know. Everyone seems to have a spring in their step, and
Yeah.
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, also, I had a pretty productive week. I edited some videos, some small reels for my debut EP release, and also for the next episode I'm gonna publish. So I got a lot of stuff done, and I'm also thinking about to start my own business with this whole
Okay.
music production thing, gigs, podcast, streaming, and
Yeah.
education. And all of this is pretty exciting, to check the possibilities which are also given by the government and the support, which I never expected to be there. And I'm really hyped about all of this. That there is an option to, just keep doing on what I'm doing right now and what's fulfilling me. And maybe to have a living from that. That's sick.
Here. It's possible. It's totally possible. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
And I was wondering, you moved from Finland to Berlin. Did you where exactly from in Finland?
So we were on a little island in the north of Finland, kind of middle of Finland, north of Finland, called Hailuoto. Right at the top of the Baltic Sea, not too far from the Swedish border, and kind of like getting pretty close to Lapland. So yeah, it was what a trip.
Yeah. Sounds
yeah.
like also pretty opposite environments, like being on an island in Finland, moving to Berlin. I guess there's a big contrast.
And we moved to Hailuoto from London, where I'd been for 15 years. So yeah, I mean, me and my partner Ino, I think we just love extremes, to be honest. Yeah. I'm all about kind of, I don't know, I hate that term, like city people, but like, like we're all just people.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely attracted to the sort of ambience of the city, which might be a funny word to use. People might think more noise, cacophony, but I mean, even 10 minutes ago, I was just putting my shirt on, and I opened the window, and I heard a German family. The kids were playing, and then from another window I heard some folk music coming out, and then I heard someone drive by and someone was laughing.
Yeah.
I love that. I really love that.
Yeah, nice.
And conversely, being on this tiny island in the north of Finland, I mean, wow, I've never heard, or I've never experienced that sort of quiet. It's in the UK, and I guess probably like in Germany and I guess most of the developed world, there's just this there's always a distant kind of roar, you know, coming from like a highway somewhere or planes. There's just always there's just always like something on the horizon, you know. You can always hear. And when we lived in this little islands of population 900 people, it really wasn't there, you know. So the first thing is it confronted me with my tinnitus, and I really, the first night we were there, actually, because, you know, like most Finnish houses have a sauna. So we took sauna and we were standing outside, and it was the middle of winter, and it was just so quiet that it was I'd really never experienced anything like it.
Wow.
And it's a trip. Yeah, there's nothing. It's just you and a void.
Yeah,
you know?
the silence.
Just you in complete silence. Yeah.
So I got one, actually 2 questions here. Like, what in the first place made you move to this island, and the second question is why did you move now to Berlin and not, for example, back to the UK or
Well, so I know it's Finnish. And so we were, I mean, she actually moved to London for a few years, and honestly, like I'd always kind of had this kind of subconscious vision for my life that I would move around, you know. And yet I'd been in London for 15 years. I didn't necessarily have like an urge to leave. But you know, Brexit was coming around. I feel like the UK is going in a bit of an uncomfortable direction anyway. I don't know. That's no reason to necessarily ditch the place, but she was thinking, hey, like,
still can be a reason.
It can be, yeah. I don't know, but I'm also, you know, my whole family's there. London's probably always going to be not the place, but a place I call home. I have a deep. I mean, the word I was going to say was like loyalty. Actually, going back to what I was just saying. So I was conflicted, but I thought, you know what? Hey, I always said I wanted to get out of here.
Yeah.
Try somewhere else. So maybe how about now? You know, and so we actually tried out several different options. You know, actually went back to Canada, for instance, and sort of walked the streets of Toronto, my old hometown, and saw what it felt like to live there, and tried out different cities. But I think, like, we knew we wanted to probably stay in Europe, and, you know, her being Finnish, we've visited frequently over the years, and just thought, hey, how about Finland?
Yeah.
You know, it was a bit of a, I wouldn't say impulsive, but it was a bit of like it's a bit of a wild decision, you know, like Finland is extremely different. I didn't even like know that much about Finland, you know, so maybe that was it. I like to experiment in life, you know, and the thing with Finland is that I guess you could call it like a buyer's market, not so much for a renter's market. So so when you search for all of the rental properties in Finland, like you can see them in like a few pages, you know. And we stumbled across this one house on this island, and picked up the phone, and they gave us a video tour, and a few months later we were on a plane.
Nice.
And it was cool, man. Like, it was like living in a small place was such an important experience, actually. You know, Finns really they really value silence. Quiet and silence. And I'm a pretty loud, chatty person, so yeah, I had to learn to like give space to people. I had to learn to let people talk. The thing is, if I'm talking to a Finnish person, and I've said this to many of my Finnish friends, like if I don't shut up at some point, I'll just go on for ages, and they'll just let me speak. And I had to become sort of cognizant of that and be like, hey, hang on a second, we have to slow down sometimes, yeah. And, like in the UK, we've constantly feel the need to fill the space, right? Like fill the silence. There can't be any silence.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, you have that too?
I'm guilty of that too. Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah. I think most of us are. And I remember one of the first times we had a bunch of people over for dinner, conversation in Finland, conversation sort of petered out, and there wasn't even any music playing, and people were just smiling at each other, like just enjoying this moment together. Yeah, it was like, wow. God, it was still difficult for me, but it was beautiful, and I think it's kind of a Nordic thing as well. I went on to experience many times that you can just stand with a person, maybe outside, and just stand and just experience the view and not have to talk all the time.
Sounds super interesting.
Yeah.
Probably a nice thing to learn. At least I would consider it that way.
Definitely, yeah. We definitely were having an experience that people who only live in like built up areas like won't get to experience, and for that, super grateful, you know. But at the same time, quite isolating, a lot of people go there because they want to get away from the noise, and that's actually not really who we are. It didn't work for a while. Actually, we moved there like a week before COVID got really heavy.
Ah, okay.
So if you want to think about countries in the world that like would be an ideal spot for COVID, Finland was like right up there, like they handled the situation extremely well. And if you want to think about places in Finland that you want to be, like how about a little island just off the coast? So I really feel like we were in one of the best places in the entire world to be.
Yeah, definitely.
When that went down, and it really didn't change life too much for almost anyone there. It was, you'd see some face masks, and that was about it. So, meanwhile, all of our friends in various cities are going through all kinds of stuff, and so, yeah. So it was great on that front. But I and I'm sure we'll speak more about creative stuff throughout the conversation. But creatively, I realized through the experience that I need people.
Yeah, I guess also it's with creativity. It's not something which you can craft intrinsically. It's you need to be inspired. You need to get some input. At least I think it's like that. Like you need to get stimulated in order to be creative. That's just what I realized in the process of being creative, that if I just stimulate myself in the right way, with the right presets or whatever, with the right sound design technique, I would just get in the mood of creating something. And also being in touch with other artists, other creators, it pushes that always.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great clip of, I think it was Lauryn Hill. She was being interviewed, or she put out a memo or something, but everyone had been asking her like, what was the deal with why she hadn't released music in a while, and she said, well, because I've been out living I've been out living life, you know. That's like, how can I create music if I'm not out in the world experiencing it? And just to be clear, there are many people who are making incredible art, just not just within nature, but even from nature. You know, there was an artist on the island who's actually a world-renowned artist.
Well,
who makes art just with organic materials, purely organic materials, and I'm talking like impressive shit, you know.
sick.
And I have many friends who are just being in that natural place. That is all of the inspiration they need. So, but that's not me, you know. That's not me. I like that. I like a balance, but not only do I need to be around more life, I also need to be with others, you know. And
Gotcha.
and so coming back to why we moved to Berlin, you know, that's kind of why I'm here. You know, I'm here to kind of jostle my creative soul to I mean, in isolation, although I got a lot done with Futurephonic, it wasn't what you would say a prolific time for my other stuff. I got stuff done. Some stuff I'm really proud of. I have a whole EP which is yet to be released, but it's mixed, mastered, ready to go. So stuff happened, you know. But it took too long. You know, it took too long. And actually, one little thing that started more towards the end of the experience was that we started making a film, just a sort of documentary about our friends who are running a little organic brewery on the island. And that's actually me and Ano who are making this film together. And just the experience of just editing it together, just the experience of sitting there, the two of us, and problem solving and working through it, I much prefer that. Like, I really enjoy the process. You know, whereas if it's just me, you know, hey, look, I started off in music, it was just me. I got a certain distance with that. That led to great things. But I'm coming out of that phase, you know, and I'm ready to work with others, and I already have a couple jam sessions lined up, and you know, I'm surrounded by people already here.
Nice.
So it's a good start.
Yeah, I guess Berlin is a perfect place for this. There are so many creatives around, so many impressions, all that dance in that city. At least from what I experienced from Berlin. So I think you already mentioned that you do this Futurephonic stuff, but I think at this point it maybe would be also nice for the listeners if you just introduce briefly what you're doing with this Futurephonic stuff, just in case people don't know.
Cool. Yes. So Futurephonic is my company. We make mostly software right now for music producers. Everything we make is for electronic music producers, or increasingly just all kinds of music producers. Historically, we started off more with educational content like masterclasses, and then moving into sample packs, synth presets. So if you check out our store, you would find a dense library of options for all the various stuff we do. I mean, we work with like a lot of different producers who have done a lot of different stuff. So it is a cornucopia of inspiring tools. That's what Futurephonic is.
Yeah, definitely can confirm this.
Cool.
So I'm interested in how you came up with this idea of Futurephonic. Like, what was the initial thought behind it, and how that then transformed into being a sustainable business. And
Sure. Okay. Well, I would probably wind the clock back like a little bit to me leaving Sonic Species. So Sonic Species, I guess people in the Psytrance world, well, I don't guess, I know everyone in the Psytrance world knows Sonic Species. And that's Joe. So me and Joe co-wrote the first album together. And then that was when I was also just about to leave the project to pursue other paths. And basically, I mean, me and Joe were writing the album in Brighton. I had moved from London to Brighton specifically to write the album.
is it?
And I actually had been working as a bicycle messenger around the time that Sonic Species was starting to become sort of feasible as something we could do as a full-time project. That's actually when I had to quit my job, a job I did actually love, working as a bike messenger. But I had to quit that so we could work full-time on the project. And it was really around that time, just going into the studio every single day, like many hours a day. That's when things started really kicking off. But after some time, I wanted to pursue other creative paths. And so I'd already been sort of drifting back to London. So when we kind of finalized that, I was back in London, and I actually went back to my job as a bike messenger. I mean, it was a humbling experience, you know. There was I actually remember very specifically. It happened so fast that I played at this festival called 303, which was a sort of offshoot of Universo Parallelo, which I'd also played at the year before. And it was a big crowd, you know. I was on the main stage. I was like rocking it, you know. It's like played just before Leon or just after Leon. I can't remember. You know, so feeling like a rock star. And you know, came back, like played at like two squad parties on New Year's Eve. You know, it was feeling like a rock star. But it was also this time that I was transitioning actually out of the sort of out of that project, and within a very short time span, I was actually back on the bicycle. And I remember this moment where I was delivering to an office building, and usually, you know, they make you go around the back to like the cargo loading bay, and the security guards back there can be like, have this like, you know, sense of authority that they like to throw around. And he was like shouting at me to like put my bike there, and it was like such a leap. I was really back to just back to work, you know. And honestly, I have to say, I think everyone should experience that, you know, like,
Definitely.
yeah, I've, you know, I have worked the entire spectrum of work. I guess you could say, well, the entire spectrum up to where I am now anyway. And that's been valuable. You meet people I've met people who haven't really done other kinds of work before, and I don't know. It's
So
you can tell.
So what? Why exactly do you quit at that moment? The Sonic Species project was just like you realizing it's not enough to live from, or do you were also like tired of having gigs or something like that?
It was. I would definitely say that I was becoming a little, what's the word, sort of uncomfortable with like this sort of club environments. I've never really been into clubs. I mean, I've had some good times in clubs. I've had some good times in clubs in Berlin. Clubbing can be awesome, but it's not where I want to be every weekend.
Yeah.
Really, really, really don't. plus because of the kind of style that we were playing, like we would usually be like sort of playing like, you know, at the very earliest, like 5, 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, they'd kind of like haul us in to play at 5 or 6. And honestly, by the last few gigs I was playing, I was like, I would really like to just go to a hotel and just wake me up like an hour and a half before the set, and I'll just like have a coffee, and you know, it was like a commute, you know, like do up my jacket and tie and go down there and
yeah, I've definitely done that as well. It's for me it was a nice experience because I just was used to arrive also at the beginning of the party and taking the whole party, having drinks and stuff. And then so when I had more gigs, I just decided that, okay, man, this night I won't take the party as well. And then I woke up at whatever 3 in the night or something, and then go to the venue. And it was also my first sober gig ever. So I mean, like without a beer or a joint or whatever. So yeah, I was really nervous, but actually, man, I had the time of my life. It was just to realize that you just can have there a great time sober, because I usually have the strings, and I guess it's also the same for a lot of other artists, that there is like these really weird anxieties when you are on top of the stage, just sometimes pressing a button and turning some knobs, and everybody's look at you. It's just somehow a really or can be a really unnatural situation or uncomforting. But yeah, just to experience this, that it's still nice, and I can have there a great time being that leader of the ceremony. And it's also fun sober. It's actually a different kind of fun sober. Yeah, it was a nice experience. But I guess, if this is getting like pretty normal, or if you go like every weekend like this, I can imagine that it's not so cool anymore if you have to wake up in the middle of the night and go into this club environment where everybody is definitely on a whole different level than you are.
Yeah, it's one thing if if you've been there all night, you know. I mean, the beautiful thing about any party is that when you get there, you're all strangers, you know, but by the end of the night, you've all kind of built this little utopia together, you know. You've kind of like, you know, all the faces, you've met all the people. You feel like sometimes I've got to, 10 o'clock in the morning at a party and thought like, can we all just like start a village or something? Or like, let's build something, you know. 3 hours later, like, not so much. I don't actually like that guy anymore. And I actually just want to go to bed. So, but you know, if you're there through the evening, it's a beautiful thing, you know. And if you arrive at like 5 o'clock in the morning and you're just re-entering that whole arena, like, just, it's like so, you know, it's disorientating in an experience which is already in itself so disorientating, you know, because when you're gigging a lot, it's just like, you know, it's just like spinning wheels of like, boom, different crowd, like, boom, different city, boom, different DJ booth, boom, different place. And it just becomes like these sort of cogs of interchanging sort of modes, which you have to constantly keep recalibrating to. And it can be exhilarating in an awesome way, but it can also just be a lot, you know. And hey, it's like, you know, one difference between, for instance, if you play in a band, you know, if you play in a band, you could be touring 7 nights a week, whereas in the electronic music world, you generally, in the sort of the dance music world, you're probably gonna be playing weekends, and if you get two gigs a week, then they'll probably be on the same night, so but all of that, but then a band will probably finish by 11, and it's it's still a very hectic lifestyle, but I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not against like playing live music. I mean, I actually really enjoy it, and I actually did go on to have a band, and I'd even say the music I'm producing now is much more suited for an ensemble, and I would like to tour and have that experience with that. So, and then ask me a year after that how I feel. But at that time, for me, I don't know. It just wasn't that part of it. It was also very disruptive to the music writing, and look, the last gig I ever played, I was literally standing on the DJ table, just hands up in the air, just, there are pictures of this, by the way. Just loving rocking the crowd. Fully confident, by that point, me and Joe had realized our vision to the point, we'd done, tens, hundreds of gigs, and we kind of really had our thing going on, and it was the first time in my life really that I'd experienced a crowd like really going for it,
Nice.
The first few years you're writing music, you're producing your own music, like people like it, but we got to the point where people were starting to like really react on like a whole new level. So it was like super exciting, and the first gigs we played, it would take most of the set just to get into it. And then after a year, I'm like midway through. And by the end of it, it'd be like, boom, first kick and bass, I'm in, I'm loving it, let's go, So I do have that side of me, I enjoy being on stage. So it's not really about that, I think it's more just environment and lifestyle, and I also have the side of me, I love being behind the scenes, I love pulling the levers and the faders from behind the scenes, so
that's how the idea for Futurephonic came, I guess.
Well, so that was a huge tangent. So I do that a lot.
Yeah, it's okay. It's actually, I think this is what makes podcasts great. All the tangents and side tracks.
Yeah.
So
100%.
but back to Futurephonic.
Back to Futurephonic. So anyway, I'm back in London. I'm back on the bike, and I actually had a few friends who were saying to me like, "Dude, Alex, it's cool that you're, making these new creative decisions and stuff, but don't you think like people were encouraging me to kind of continue to I guess benefit from all the work I'd done, and that's me in my life anyway. I'll work on something for like 5 years and just be like, let's start something new, and that is kind of cool. It's very ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADHD. I think it's quite typical thing. I like to kind of like build a sound castle and then just let a wave take it over and start all over again. But I definitely was surrounded by people who were like, I don't know, like, isn't there anything you can do there? And so I was actually working at a pub in London at the time, and one of my very good friends was Sam Morgan. It was funny. He was actually my manager, or he was like my shift manager. So he's also sort of, he comes from more of a techno background, but was also very into Psytrance, and he was more like he was he had this entrepreneurial gaze, I suppose, at the music production world, which was very different, by the way. This was 10 years ago. Very different time in the sort of music production industry.
Yeah.
And he was like, masterclasses, bro. It's masterclasses. And he was saying to me, like, you know, I've got a lot of friends now. I've got good contacts. You know, people like Tristan, Dexter, Burden Noise, all these people. These are my friends now. Let's hit them up for masterclass. It was something that was not happening really at all in the Psytrance scene.
Yeah.
I know Billy Cosmosis, another friend of mine. He'd done a couple things, but we thought, hey, let's give this a go. And the reaction was, I mean, we didn't expect much. I mean, okay, we're working with some big names, but again, the internet's a very different place. You know, this is like transitioning out of MySpace. You know, so like, you know, it's where we are now is so oversaturated, but where we were back then, it was like,
yeah, I
I
definitely can remember when I started out like 7 years ago and digging into YouTube, just desperately looking for any information. I remembering watching some promo clips from the masterclass with Tristan about those nano percussions, and other one where you were creating like a serum preset, pretty melodic ones, man. And I remember like rewatching those again and again, and be like, awesome, why isn't there more of that? It's like typing all different stuff into YouTube, but yeah, there just wasn't anything. So yeah, man, I think you hit it right on the spot there.
Yeah, it felt like the right time. And honestly, we didn't have particularly like a plan to like start a successful business. It was a side hustle, you know, but it just started developing into something that lots of people were interested in. And our whole thing as well was like, and still is to this day, I want to learn from the masters, you know. I want to learn from people who have a proven track record of nailing it.
Yeah.
You know, I do think that there's like a lot of people who really like to teach, and that's cool, and who really like to share information, but maybe would take an authority that they're not fully at the stage yet. Where, I mean, I think that's a lot of the internet these days is like a lot of people like, nah, bro, you got to do this. I'm like, sorry, who are you?
Yeah,
I haven't heard your tunes yet, man. Like, you know, it's a beautiful thing that we can exchange information, but I personally, I just want to learn from people who have like a proven track record, and all the rest of us, I'm just like really happy to exchange ideas and listen. But you know, I really can sympathize and empathize with people coming into music production now, and it is like so overwhelming. You know, it's such a fast, oversaturated internet world right now, and you know, people coming in now, it's like, man, you feel like you got to be like making something kind of quite good, like very quickly. You know, and if you haven't got a good beat together or a good kick and bass or whatever kind of genre you're working on, if you haven't got like a fat bass within like 3 weeks, then like, what am I doing wrong? You know, and you cannot improve that. Like, no, like, okay, there's always that annoying kid that does get it really quickly. They usually see as examples, but and honestly, I think there's a lot of music now that actually can be learned a lot quicker. But personally, coming into a genre like psychedelic trance, which has the sounds that you're kind of trying to get, you know, it's like there's an element of sort of replication. You know, if you look at drum and bass and you know, progressive house and and techno and all these styles, it's like you might want to reinvent quite a bit within that genre.
Yeah.
But you're also probably trying to get like that bass sound, and to get, a good kicking bass is going to take you years.
Yeah.
Anyone who can make a good kicking bass will tell you that.
Yeah.
And if they tell you it's going to happen quicker, they probably haven't made a great kicking bass yet.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I say that honestly now, and even to be honest, even using some of our tools, you can get there so much faster. But hearing the way, like listening to harmonic interaction, like listening to the way a sine wave interacts with a saw tooth, and just hearing the tonality of that just takes a really long time, and that's a good thing, I think, you know. And you have to have you have to have an ear, you have to have a room, you have to have acoustics, so
Definitely.
and when I first started writing psychedelic trance in I don't know, 2000, 2001. I mean, I say started writing. I mean, when I first sat at Fruity Loops and went, I didn't realize that you don't put a kind of a bass on the kick. I just saw it because all I heard was just da 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 da. And then I was already, I met Joe, we were 15, 16, around that time, and we had our first session together years before Sounding Species, and he was like, no, it's like kick, bass, 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 kick, bass, bass, bass. And that was like doing that for like 6 months, you know? So I don't know. It's it takes a while.
Yeah,
I feel like I've gone on.
I'm also like fascinated again and again, like how it's just one sound, the kick. It's just one sample, and also the bass. It's usually just this one sample. And how much goes into that? Like it seems to be a pretty simple thing, and somehow it is just one thing, but yeah, it's just crazy how much is going into that, how much knowledge, how much ear training to really shape it and really know what you're looking for. I mean, still to this day, with my kicks, I feel like that's good, I guess. It's still a lot of guesswork because there is it's not as easy to determine the character of the sounds than with a melody or whatever. It's so much harder. Yeah.
Yeah, and you need a really controlled space to hear it as well.
Yeah.
But I also realized that one thing that would always not work would be if I was to sit there and try to just work on one kick and bass in one session, where like I feel like for me, my ear becomes way less intelligent after about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And everything will just sort of sound good, and I really feel like I've had it. So actually, some of the commercial packs, like for instance, my bass trilogy pack, which I put out, what I got into doing there was actually juggling 3, 4, 5 kick and bass combos within one project. It's actually something I really wanted to make a video about and still plan on doing, because this really worked for me. Would be that I'd work on one kick and bass for for about 4 or 5 minutes, and as soon as I felt like I sort of hit a little victory, like whatever I was trying to do, like something was working, I just stick my flag down and I'd go to the next one and do the same thing. And by the time, maybe after 15, 20 minutes, I came back to the first one, I could hear, yes, it's true that I got the click right, but I actually didn't get the sub right.
Yeah.
And I'd work on that, and then 4 or 5 minutes, put my, and just to keep moving.
Yeah.
and I got so much more done,
Hey,
so
that
much
sounds
quicker.
super smart. That sounds super smart. Yeah, because also this sensation of just losing objectivity that quickly, like
Yes.
yeah, just guessing. Yeah, what I said, it's okay, I guess. After 5 minutes, as you said, it's really gone, all the objectivity, and I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So this is a real nice tip here.
And of course referencing as well, you know. I even mentioned it when me and Joe did a class together, but I mean, like, I would be mixing, and I would have a reference track, or maybe it's like reference track which I heard at a party, and I just thought like, that is it, that is the sound, this is the sound that I love. So buy the track, download the WAV, hear it in my system, and think, oh my god, it's just, that's it, that's the sound, this is what I love, you know. And I'd be referencing again, saying, oh god, it's they really like got the snare just right and the kicking, you know. But then what would happen would be that I'd keep working on my session, and then I would be referencing against it, and I'd start thinking like, maybe their snare's a little quiet, actually. I think I would like my snare to be louder.
Yeah.
And then I'd start thinking like, to be honest, their kicks like a little on the quiet side as well. And this kind of self-deception would get more and more distorted till by the end of it I thought, you know what, I think I've done even better than them.
Yeah.
And then I'd come back 20 minutes and go, what have I done? What have I done? Like, I would even tell myself that the reference was wrong, you know. It's the level of self-deception you can run through in your mind is mind-boggling. Hey, can we take a quick tea out, because I actually just need to use a loo, grab some water.
Yeah, man.
So I'll be
anytime.
back in like
also,
30
my
seconds.
throat is
Okay,
scratching.
cool. Let's be
catch
back
you
in a
bit.
sec.
Yeah,
Okay, are we back?
I am.
Cool.
You too. Yeah. So we were stopping at this.
Can I add one more tip to that?
Yeah.
Actually,
Go ahead.
So another thing that is on my to-do list of videos. It actually should be a very simple video to make. Maybe just by putting it out in your podcast, I don't have to make the video. I have set up a shortcut on my keyboard which just turns all my screens off.
Whoa.
And it has really changed the way that I write music.
Wow.
This is I have one of these like Razer RGB kind of gamer keyboards where you can like change all the shortcuts. So I don't even know how you would do this. I think it's actually not that hard.
In times of ChatGPT, I'm sure you just can write a script with the shortcut.
Exactly. But yeah, just boom, click, all my screens go off, and it's just me and the sound.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, navigating music in this digital audio workstation, you know, it's for me personally, and I know for a lot of people, it just becomes this Tetris game, you know, where you just gotta almost like get the colors in the right place. Or
yeah, man, I heard like a crazy story once where someone was talking about making the settings on an EQ8 or on a Pro Q. I guess what was EQ8, like blind, like just by ear how it sounds, and the curve which afterwards was resulting there was like looking super weird. Like, and this is also one of the examples where like you get tricked by your eye. Like the curve should be nice looking, but if you just go by the sound, you maybe end up with an EQ shape you never would have chosen because it's looking too strange. Or yeah,
it's we're making sound. We're not making, you know, no one cares what your EQ looks like, right? And actually now that I'm currently building a studio here in Berlin, and I'm actually planning like a sort of like a double-ended space. So there's going to be like a control space, which would be like my primary, computer, monitors, normal conventional setup that I run, and then at the other end of the room there's going to be where I actually perform the music. That's going to be where all my synths, guitars, all that stuff go, microphones, etc. And I'm planning like maybe like a little like 5-inch monitor with like a little, not even a keyboard, just like a little Bluetooth mouse I have just off to the side, just so I can press stop and go back to the start and start looping again. But have dedicated speakers there as well. I've still got the Mackeys, actually, that we wrote the first Sonic Species album on. Have those set up there as well, and to just have a space where it is just all about the sound, no screens. I hate playing guitar looking at a screen. It's it's so yeah. I'm not into it.
Yeah, totally. I got you totally. Sounds like a pretty clever idea. So, yeah, how after you mentioned that it just was a side hustle, I guess. At least by now it's looking on the internet like you can live from that and it's not anymore just a side hustle. Is that right?
Yeah, it's right. Yes and no. I mean, it is. Yeah, it's my full-time occupation, in a sense. And it kind of comes in waves. Actually, the big part of the reason for starting the business, or should I say, when it was starting in its very nascence, like where like I was thinking to the future of like where we could take this thing, because really have to give full shout outs to Sam, who was with Futurephonic for the first, let's say, sort of 5 years. So we were both doing this thing, and I had a vision to create something that I could work very intensive short bursts on and then take time off. Basically make a product, let it sell, live off the passive income.
Yeah.
That was the idea. And that balance, as the company became more and more serious, as the brand became more and more serious, maintaining that kind of balance has become seriously more difficult. It's not something I can take like 2 months away from anymore. It does come in bursts and waves. As soon as I started working with more people as well, I was able to do that a little bit more. For the first few years, it was, I hadn't even opened my mind to the thought of releasing a sample pack from someone else. I think it was the Virtual Light Source Code 1. I think that was the first ever product we made that wasn't made by me. Everything up to that point had been there was my sample packs and synth presets, and then me and Sam were working on the masterclasses. So yeah, it is. So the reason I say yes and no is because it's not. It is sort of passive income in a sense. Like I don't have to like do like stack some bricks just to get every sale, but it is it's a lot of work for upkeep. I am working with so I hired a guy named Ben, who's actually goes under the artist name Zenoben, and we've been doing this for a few years now. So if you write us an email, he'll probably get back to you. So that's been great. And I was just kind of hiring some of my friends as well to like help out with like monthly stuff. so there is a certain level of ongoing maintenance that any business needs,
Yeah.
And but I outsource as much as I can, because I still, I still write music, I still produce music. Like I said, we're doing a little film together, and now that I'm in Berlin, I want to also have free time to do that. But then sometimes I'll need to spend 2-3 months just really working on Futurephonic. So for instance, we've got an update coming for Rhythmizer, and when that's kind of like near to be released, that's going to require a very, very deep level of round the clock, mostly video work. I also, I designed the GUI for Rhythmizer, so
Sick.
that took really a long time. I mean, I really do pretty much everything that you see in here. So all the demo tracks, I designed the entire website. Just website stuff.
Hey man, yeah, I totally get you. I tried to set up a website myself, and man, it's really not work I like to do. It's I totally get this point of sorting out stuff, even with the podcast, man, to do all the editing and to rewatch it, and also I think to not have this distance another editor would have, but to see myself like talking over and over again, it's such a weird sensation, and to always stay strong and not to, especially in the podcast, not to censor it too much, so I would shine in another light. It's really a lot of mental work, and also just rewatching 1.5 hour, 2 hours, and edit all the stuff. I would be really happy to just focus on having these conversations, and the rest gets done by somebody else. But yeah.
Well, at some point, hopefully, you'll be at the place where you can do that. You know, and I think it's very typical of creative people to have a DIY ethos, which drives us to want to just do everything ourselves. Actually, outsourcing. I used to do all the emails on my own because I thought I don't need to spend the money to get someone else in. I could not imagine a world now where Ben doesn't do the emails, and when Ben goes on holiday, and I actually have to do all the emails on my own, it's like this is I can't, so it's like I can't. It's not feasible. I mean, I do it, and just to be clear, I really like hearing from my customers as well, and after 10 years, I've built up like hundreds of first name friendships with our Futurephonic crowd, but still, just obviously tech support in general is time consuming, and so it's having that kind of putting that value on myself as a creative person is, and also realizing like, okay, maybe I'll hire someone for 100 euros to do this thing, this task, and you think, oh God, but I could do the task in just like 2-3 hours. I could edit the podcast myself. But then realizing that you could make something far greater in the time that while you paid someone else to do them, and just realizing the value of our own time, I think is just so important. And the more I do, like, I've never regretted outsourcing or delegating a job to someone else. I'm just so as long as you work with people that you trust, then it's all good, isn't it?
Easy peasy.
And having that external input as well is crucial. But I wish I told myself that earlier, honestly.
Yeah.
But Futurephonic as well is like, it there have been many, many moments where I've been working on our stuff. In fact, pretty much all moments where I remembered that, or I realized that it is an artistic outlet for me.
Yeah.
I'm not really like a profit-driven person. If I was, Futurephonic would be like a lot bigger. Like it'd be easily 10 times bigger, and I'd have a whole,
Marketing
extended team.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
If I was in this just for money, like it would look very, very different.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's like we're doing okay. But I actually, when I'm editing making the videos and writing on the music for them, that is actually an artistic exercise for me. So if there's something like that's an artistic outlet for me. And so that's one thing that also makes Futurephonic, like a viable thing for me, is that I actually get to do art. And it's very fulfilling for me. So, if you can do something that you actually enjoy, then kind of living the dream.
Yeah, man. And I was also wondering on, I mean, I totally understand if you don't want to talk about this, but yeah, how it works, like if you approach an artist or an artist is doing a preset pack for Futurephonic, is it like you pay them once a big fee, or is it like a split royalty thing, or yeah, in general? Also, I would be interested, like, you don't need to, tell me some numbers, but yeah, like, how much can one expect if you have like a pretty nice preset pack, like in 1 year? Is it, for example, really possible to live 2, 3, 4 months just from one release or something like that? I would be interested in stuff like this.
Yeah, so we do work on like a split, like a percentage. I think that's the only way you could do it. I mean, how could you, you could give someone like an upfront fee, I suppose. But I mean, how else would you quantify like how much someone should get paid? And I think that we have a pretty good split. I've heard, especially when we were coming to the idea of what sort of percentage to make, like I heard of other companies that were giving very bad splits. But, as someone who spent many, many, weeks, days, weeks, months, years making my own stuff, I was very sympathetic to the artistic process. So I think we give pretty good percentage. And to your other questions, so like the industry has changed a lot, like really, really a lot. I mean, when my first sample pack, Sonic Formations, when that came out, so I spent like 3 months making that, like around the clock, like 3 months, all day, every day. It was like an album, but it was like a sample pack.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's look, I'm never gonna like discuss like numbers in specifically, but it did good. Like it allowed me to buy some gear, allowed me to take some time off. It was the first summer in my life I'd really had like some money, you know. I mean, in my working life, I should say. I mean, I don't come from like a unprivileged background or anything, but it was, in terms of myself. And people coming into this place right now, it's I think we're in just the internet in general has become a kind of like supply over demand environment, like even when we were starting with Futurephonic, like we were making stuff that people really needed,
Yeah.
You know, like you really needed like what we were making. Like people were desperate for it.
Yeah.
You know, and now I don't think people are desperate for it.
Yeah.
There's so much out there, and yeah, it's a saturated place. And also,
Yeah.
you know, when COVID happened, the first few months, actually, I think most audio companies kind of did kind of okay, because suddenly everyone's at home,
Yeah.
and you know, like, hey, maybe I'll start doing more music production again. But pretty quickly, what started happening was that people, especially music producers, especially those who are used to making a living from the touring lifestyle, is that they didn't have any gigs for 1, 2,
Yeah.
3 years, and suddenly they needed a gig. So suddenly everyone was writing sample packs, synth
Yeah.
presets, even doing educational content. And I feel like some of those people did that for a bit and then went back to gigging. But it left a mark. And yeah, so I really don't know. I do know that when we put stuff out, people can get by for some time. The money that was there a few years ago isn't still there.
Yeah.
At our level. Look, if you're Native Instruments or one of the sort of big guns, you know, I really don't know, to
Yeah.
be honest. I've seen figures from other companies, and I've been surprised both ways. I've been like, wow, I thought they made a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And then I've seen other stuff where I'm like, they make how much? Holy shit. That's okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, I
You
guess
know, so
it's a little bit more coincidence if somebody is grab the attention of a specific sample pack or whatever. Like in the beginning there wasn't so much, and now I think people probably just stick with the first thing they see somewhere and be like, oh yeah, I gonna buy that. So actually I did a pretty amateurish sample pack myself. I just had a huge sound design file and was like, okay, I cut it up and call it a sample pack. And man, I was surprised. I just put it up for free, but to me, I don't value it too much. But yeah, if I now look back onto the stats, like every week somebody's gonna download it, and I just had this the thought that, man, if I had like 10 things up there, which all be like €5 or whatever, nothing people need to think too much about when they consider buying it. Yeah, I could call it a day, you know, and every day it's like bling bling, just a little bit.
well, I mean, I do want to just sort of on your point about, you know, having it for like 5 years. And I would caution that one thing which makes it a difficult industry is that there is a sort of a race to the bottom mentality, you know, that can be quite sort of pervasive, especially in electronic music. You know, there's always something cheaper out there, you know, and I think the general value of for instance, sample packs and synth presets has gone too low. You know, I mean, so one sort of economic principle would be the value of scarcity, right? If there's not very much of something, it's very valuable. If there's too much of something, it's less valuable, right? So, I would like to see an industry where people are really putting the time in and charging a decent price, you know, so that, I mean, if you put out a pack for 40, 50 euros, okay, you're gonna get a lot of people who turn around and say, "Man, how could you? Like, that's just like too expensive. Like, it's arrogant, it's greedy, it's all this blah 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 blah." But if that's something that if you get a pack, and even if it's just like some kicks or snares, I'm not saying release your kicks for 50 euros, but if you buy a sample pack and you get like even a handful of sounds that you really get use out of, like say for instance, like what is a lifespan of a single track? Okay, sometimes you got like it's your 17th track this year, so doesn't like it, but sometimes a track can like make or break a career. Sometimes a track can have a huge impact on not just your personal career but the world. Is that worth 50 euros? If you're making stuff which really adds a high amount of value to people's productions, I mean, you would buy an EQ for 50 euros or something, and that's like a tool for life. You buy. I think we've all had that moment where we just hit like a synth preset or something that was like just made to that track. How much would you value that single preset? Like I would say quite high. Because it had a huge impact. So when I see stuff going for 5 euros, especially if there's like a high quantity of files within it, or even worse, if it's something that actually should be more like 50 euros, I kind of despair a little bit, and coming back to Futurephonic, I mean, people might have noticed that we don't put out stuff as much as we did even a couple of years ago. That's because like I'm really interested in like what new stuff can we bring, and actually Rhythmizer has been that really fresh new angle. But I also don't want to add to like a sort of a market that is so saturated with kind of the same sounds. And people have pitched ideas to me, I mean, people have offered really good packs to me, to be honest, which would probably sell okay, and I don't think anyone would be unhappy, but I feel like it's just contributing to a market which needs new stuff, and so I'm like, if you're sitting there, if anyone's sitting there wondering like, how can I break in, I think there's always room for something new, innovative, fun, interactive as well. Even sample packs. Okay, there's, of course, we all need sample packs, but synth presets, software, Max for Live devices, this level of interactive stuff. Like people really like, you give them a sound and they get to take it on a journey, which you can't do with a sample pack as much, So, I mean, the Max for Live space, very exciting.
Definitely,
a lot of people are using Live. I'll tell you that for free. Like a lot of people are on Live. Like really a high proportion of our user base is using Ableton Live. Max for Live is a great place. It's a great petri dish for making cool tools. So yeah, make a Max for Live plugin. Make it look really good as well. And make it really fun to use. That's how Rhythmizer started out.
Totally got your point here. Yeah, I guess it's just so much noise there. But I think also if you people will probably also value it more if they pay more for it. And also I think it's a good strategy to make yourself rare. I don't know if it's the right expression, but yet to be rare, to be something special, and not like replaceable stuff, like just hundreds of sounds for nothing. It's also, I think, if there are like really a lot of sounds in there, sometimes really hard to. I also really like that people are doing like a decision for me. Because making music is making so much decisions, and at some point it's just hard to know what to do next. So if somebody's taking away that work with like here 20 kick samples and not 200, it will be way easier for me to also trust it, and yet just to also to get done what I want to do quicker and more efficient.
I was just gonna say, like, look at the last 2 kick presets we made. You know, pulses 1 and 2, 50 kicks each.
They are sick.
You know, you don't need 1,000. But all of those kicks are like really good, like really good. Like, are you gonna make 50 tracks this year? No. Like, I mean, if you do, cool. But you know, you don't need 5,000 kicks. That just takes away from time. And it's like, you know, you go to a restaurant. Like, do you want an entire pizza for €1 or do you want it for 15 euros? You'd be very worried if someone offers you an entire pizza for €1. You know,
Definitely.
If it's 20 euros, you think this better be good, and if it is good, you're coming back. You know, so yeah, I think you're bang on. You know, just make really good stuff. Do the selection process. You know, curate the sound profile. Just make sure everything is good. It's been tested in tracks. I mean, everyone's a winner.
Yeah. I also was interested if there is, I mean, you said you're working on Rhythmizer right now, but if there are also some other current projects you're working on and can talk about.
For Futurephonic?
Yeah, for Futurephonic. And also, other than Futurephonic, like what you've been up to lately.
So for Futurephonic, we do have a couple projects in the works with our usual team of people, just producers that you've seen packs from before. We've got a few things in the works there. Honestly, like, Rhythmizer is a pretty full-time job for both me and our developer Richie. He's the guy who does all the actual code, you know. So obviously Raphael Jump Street invented the original Rhythmizer, and at this stage in time, we're both doing. It's very much a shared vision, you know, and collaborating with Richie. But that's honestly where most of our resources are going right now. I'm also thinking, maybe moving to Berlin will affect that as well. There's lots of Germans here. Lots of Germans here. We have lots of German people in our audience, so it'd be cool to actually meet more of our crowd as well. And so who knows what kind of ideas can come out of that. And in terms of other stuff, I don't know. I have an EP which I have got mixed and mastered now, which I'm going to release hopefully this year. Still building my studio. That's going to be under my Frightful Ocean moniker. I have one track out in that project, but so now there's going to be a bit more of a live set there, and so really excited about that actually. Like I said, I've been working on a film with my wife, but it's the dawn of a new day being in Berlin, and like, really keen to see what can come out. Honestly, ask me again in 6 months, and I think there's gonna be lots of new projects, and I'm
very
excited to see what happens. I
think this is also a pretty good point to wrap up this podcast. I really appreciate it that you did this together with me, and
all right, cool. Hey, great chatting with you, Fred, and hope you listeners had a great chat. Thanks all for listening. And
Hey, thanks for listening to Monchi's podcast. If you really enjoyed the show, I just want to real quick ask you for your support. The easiest way to do this is via rating, reviewing and or commenting on whatever podcast platform you're listening to it, so other like-minded people can find it as well. Secondly, as I mentioned already in this episode, I would love to hire a professional editor so I can focus more on just doing Monchi stuff. Therefore, I will launch a Patreon. So if you really appreciate the show and have some euros extra per month, here is a really good way to spend them. As a benefit, you will get early access to the episodes, and of course, I will think about other cool exclusive features to add in the future. So that's all for now. Thanks again for listening. Stay tuned. Cheers.